There are 3 parties in conference, including you.
Well, let's do the opposite then, okay? I'll do Konica Minolta backwards. We'll do it the other way. So I'm going to open up now. Konica Minolta is the current series is their 4 series, okay? So if you're ever dealing with Konica Minolta, here I'll do it through. I'll show you through BLIQ. So through BLIQ, you'll see some of this, but their current series is the 4 series. If you look at Konica Minolta, they'll go the 4 series and then a 3 series and a 2 series, okay? Their machines, the first 2 numbers on their machines are the speed. So if it's a 754 from Konica Minolta, it is 75 pages per minute, and their numbers are usually based on black and white numbers. And then the last number is their 4 series. The key is that the C in front of it, they have I want to show you this. They have a C754 and they have a 754. One's color, one's black and white. The C for them indicates color. Here's a C452, and let me see if I can find, they'll show you the 454. But anyways, so sometimes you'll have customers who will actually say, well, I'm looking at the 454, and you'll hear them, but they're interested in a color device. You got to know it's the C. So here, the 282, 280, you're getting what I'm saying. So I've seen a lot of people make that mistake when they're talking about Konica Minolta, that they're talking about the wrong device. Anyways, so one of the things, let me get back to the print drivers. So within the print drivers, see this? Oh, it kind of goes quick. So when I clicked on it, and I'm going to see if it'll do it again. If I click printer properties, see that little message that pops up that says now connecting to the device? Yeah. Right? So that is what Konica Minolta refers to as bidirectional communication to the print driver, right? So what they're doing right there is they're going out and asking the machine, what do you have loaded, right? What do you have in paper tray 2? So then if you went into like basic and you looked at the paper settings for each tray, it would tell you, I have letterhead in tray 1, right? What if somebody changes that right now? Am I talking to the machine? No. So if somebody changes this and changes the description on the tray to like, I don't know, blue paper or transparencies, or changes it back to plain paper, you have to leave the application and come back into the print driver for it to work again. That is not the same thing as bidirectional communication. Our machine, if somebody changes paper, you'll see it, and I'm not going to say it's instantaneous. It is probably a good 5 seconds. But you don't have to leave the print driver and come back in to connect again. So don't let them get away with saying they do the exact same thing, because they're really not doing the same thing. And then one of the other things that's a little different is that in our machine, if you pick tray 1, because it says it's got letterhead, that works just fine. On their machine, if you have to say tray 1, and then see what it does here? It's just going to give you whatever's in tray 1. And if I go auto, if I turn auto off, now I can pick letterhead. And then the machine figures out which tray it's in. But you can't just say, give me tray 1 letterhead. It's a small difference, but it's a difference. One of the things they do well is the My tab. This is something that they have an advantage over versus everybody. They can actually, so I'm going to click on Edit My tab. You see that the stuff that's here is like the secure print. You can do the stapling, the image shift, the combination. I do Edit My tab. I can actually add stuff or move stuff around. So if I want let's say, see how it says on the right side? I can actually move, let's move stapling to the left, and I'll move output method to the right. Click OK, and now the driver sets itself. So this is a real advantage for them. This gives the user the ability to kind of put the 4 or 5 things that they use all the time on the front screen. The reason I think that's an advantage, I mean, one, first of all, we just can't do that. The key is that we already put probably the 4 or 5 things that everybody uses on the front screen. We built the driver that way for you. We put output methods, stapling, paper trays, duplex. Those are the top 4 things that people do, and then color, black and white, right? So this allows them to do some odd stuff if they want to do it. In the basic section, you'll see up here, so I'm going to go back just for 1 second because you can see it here. Under favorite settings, this is what they would consider their application defaults. So you'd have to create a PowerPoint default. Now, they can change the icon and make it a pretty picture and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that's nice is they can export it. So you can actually export that as a list so that, you know, if you want to import it into another print driver, you can do that. I think our application default is more powerful because you can do application defaults and don't have to keep going back in. But their ability to do my tab is quite different. Quality, one of the things that, I'll show you this. Hold on, give me a second. This will take me a second to kind of set up. Oh, there we go. So how when we do image quality on our devices for adjustments, we use something called color by words, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so you say make red brighter or turn green into blue, right? On the Konica devices, they make, you know, you increase your toast, you decrease your cup of coffee, or you change the saturation levels of your emerald. I don't know why they use toast, like brightness changes, like I want like bread, or I want burnt toast, or I want a light cup of coffee, or I want like I'm a heavy I'm a cappuccino drinker, so I want it heavy. And then the saturation, I don't even know what that's supposed to do. But that's how they go about doing it. And then if I I like this because when they go to detail, so simple, this is simple. Look at this. Simple is coffee, toast, and an emerald. Detail is coffee, toast, and an emerald. I really don't know what they're supposed to be doing with all that, but they can change text, photos, so this, you know, they can change all of that kind of stuff. They do have the ability to do color balance, so, you know, now, me, I've been doing this for, God, I'm old, so I've been doing this for 19 years. I've always heard of it as CMYK. I've never heard of it as YMCB or YMCK. But maybe they were thinking YMCA. I'm not sure if they were trying to go YMCA. You know, anyways. But they do that. And then when you get into the other, they'll actually do pure black. So this is one of the things I would warn you about with their devices. So what's pure black? Anyone? Bueller?
Just use black toner?
No. Pure black is CMYK.
Oh.
So it's a rich
Actually, because black is all the colors combined. So it's not just black toner. Pure black is all of the colors combined. So when if they turn on pure black in the settings, this is actually doing a color page.
So are they going to get billed for color?
So they get billed for color. So that's sometimes when you see, and that's why sometimes, like if they have auto, if I create a document in PowerPoint, or PDF, it depends on who creates the document, but you could create your text using CMYK. Depends on how you create the document. So in this case with auto, their documents would print out in color even if it was just a black and white document. It depends. There's a lot of variables in there, but they do have that turned on as auto. So if they see text as CMYK, they'll actually print it in color and get a color click. And that's where if you hear of customers who are complaining that black and white pages are clicking as color, even on our devices, it could be that they created the text in CMYK. So my point is our color by words is a much more powerful tool than their, you know, toast, coffee, and emerald. Some of the other stuff they do in here, they will, if I go back to two-color, they can actually take everything and do black and green, black and blue. So the whole page, any color on the page will just print as red. That's a little different. I've run up against that a couple times. Let me do other. So I'm going to go into other. One of the things they do in here is they correct for Excel.
Why would they correct for Excel?
So a few years ago, our print drivers had that problem where if you had a bunch of Excel tabs and you try to print the whole thing as a book, that's what this print or correct for Excel is. So they have it on by default. It's always on. So if you're trying to if you have 4 or 5 tabs on an Excel spreadsheet and you want to print the entire, I think they call it a worksheet. Our devices, our print drivers used to have that problem years ago. So they had the same problem. They turned it on, so, but it could be turned off. All right, so that's some of the print drivers. What do I want to do next? Well, I could do this. See, this is the power of what I've done. Excellent. Hold on. Usually I would walk, I'm on the table, so I would push the table across. But what I'm going to show you here is I want to do this. Come on. Is it even trying? Sometimes I think my computer is not even really trying. Hold on, let me close some stuff.
Your computer does everything except for fast.
Yeah. I'll refresh this page. Maybe it's my S3. Nope. There we go. So in here, I have a video, and you can see 93 hits, 2 comments. Ooh, I got a couple comments on it now. So let's see what the comments are. Sorry, this is the exciting stuff. Miriam, Miriam's a, yeah, thank you, Miriam. Miriam is the, Miriam is one of the marketing managers in the UK, so glad to see the people in the UK. So this is the experience you'll see, and I could show it to you, but I shot the video, so I might as well shoot the video. I spent all the time doing it. And I'll talk a little bit about this as we go through it. This has to do with logging into CWIS and being an administrator on the device. It's an important point. I mean, it talks about technology more so than anything. That our technology really works better than Konica Minolta's technology. How many people in the room would consider us a software company? Hand?
Half.
So maybe I'm probably unique in this aspect. That's the back of my head. I don't know. You know? I'm probably unique in this sense. I consider us or vendors, that's Scott Stevenson. Scott's the iGen technology specialist over here. I consider us a software company in a lot of ways, maybe more so than a hardware company. Fuji Xerox makes the machines, makes a lot of the machines. I shaved, by the way, in that picture. You can see I'm clean shaved. Fuji Xerox makes the hardware for a lot of our machines. So we make the controller, which is the software, and we make the print drivers, which is the software. So the hardware piece actually comes from other companies. We take their hardware and push it into our, incorporate our software into it. A really good example of that is Lexmark. Lexmark's X955 device is actually the same hardware as our 78 series. Uses the same toner bottles, has the same drums. It's an LED engine, same paper trays, all of that kind of stuff. The difference between the Lexmark machine and the Xerox machine is software. Their print drivers and their controller. That's where the differences are, because the hardware, it holds the same amount of paper, it's got the same finishing, the covers are a different color, that's all. My point, and I'm getting back to this, is that the Xerox machines and the technology that we use to be able to actually update software settings and things like that is really the difference. It's not so much, and then the difference is that Konica Minolta, as you can read as this goes through, doesn't allow you to do that. So if the Konica Minolta administrator has to go in and, logs in and has to change something in the address book or, creates a workflow setup or something like that, nobody can use the machine. And until, the administrator walks away or logs off of that page, the machine is useless. And then the opposite of that is also true. If the machine is printing or the machine is sending a scan job or doing anything, for that matter, the administrator can't log into the web page. So you got somebody, trying to create a workflow making $100 an hour, and they can't use the machine until, somebody trying to print out their email can get there. So it's really about technology. Did the video make sense? Let me ask that question. Did it make sense? Yeah. Yeah. So my point is that when you're looking at it, being able to do all those kind of things, actually, so we had Jessica. Trevor, what's Jessica Schiffenhaus? Yeah, I think that was it, Schiffenhaus. Jessica Schiffenhaus from BLI, when she was here yesterday, talked with us about that Xerox's web interface for the devices, CWIS, Centerware Internet Services, is really the best in the industry. It gave her an appreciation and made it easier for her to understand how to configure other devices. Because, well, here, let me do this. I'll bring up the Konica Minolta one. Oh no, I know what it is. Hold on. Not enough coffee. I don't have the IP yet. 13.142.67.205. So here's the Konica Minolta page. and maybe some of you or none of you or maybe all of you, I'm not sure, have actually looked at our CWIS. How many of you have actually gone into CWIS? Well, you use a remote control panel, so you've been into it, right? So when you're in I'll mention this just for a second. So when you're in the print driver, and you need to look at how much toner's left, or what's in each tray and all that kind of stuff, how much is there, this is where you go. So it links you to this. Just like the Ricoh machine has that web image monitor that doesn't work, the Konica Minolta machine, if we go into the print driver, oops, what happened there? Oh, there it goes. Now it's printing. If I go into the Konica Minolta machine, come on. There it is. If I go to other, there's a link. Where is it? Default. No. Where is it? There should be a link. About? Nope. Where is it? Oh, I thought there was a link in there. Maybe I'm mistaken. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what it is? I'm sorry. I said that wrong. Hold on. Here. This is what it uses. So Konica Minolta uses a separate piece of software to do what we do. So with our communication, so we look at the queue and all that kind of stuff. Konica Minolta, you have to actually load a separate piece of software. So they have this print status notifier that'll connect you to the machine and tell you, like, our print driver will tell you that the job is done, right? Well, telling you the job is done is productivity, technically. That means that you don't have to get up and walk down the hall to find your job. We tell you your job is done. Konica Minolta, to do that, actually loads this separate piece of software. And this would have to get loaded on every desktop. So if you have 20 users, you have to load a print driver and you have to load the status notifier. And then when you load the status notifier, you have to configure it. So if I go into link device information, not registered, see? So not only do you have to load it, but you actually have to make it work. And you'd have to do this on every desktop. So then you go in here, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but if you wanted to do a new machine, register a monitor device, you'd have to go through all of these steps on each device to do all of this, folks. I mean, that's the value to bidirectional communication. Talk about productivity. I mean, one piece of software to an IT person and talking about the value of all that on Konica Minolta devices, we just do it better, you know. This is a pain in the proverbial rump every time, because you have to actually register the device, then you have to refresh it, you have to connect, and you can see here, this is the right IP address. I'm looking at the right device. It just won't do anything, you know. So, anyways, and probably a few of you have heard me say this in the past, we have the best print drivers in the industry. By all means, demo our print drivers. So, while I'm in here, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the login screen. Okay. So to log in as an administrator. Now, the default admin password for Ricoh devices is 123456781, 123456778. If you ever need to get into a Konica device, that's the default password. I have changed the default password because typing 16 letters, numbers, I should say, is really a pain in the neck. So mine's 4 ones. Come on. Now, if any of you up there ever, and I'll say this knowing I'll probably get a request anyways, if you ever need to show something like this to a customer, by all means. You can load the print driver. These are all on the 13 dot network. So if you wanted to load the print driver somewhere, you could do that on your PC. Now, if I was over at the machine and looking at it, the exact video that we played, that screen would come up that says the machine's unavailable. And the reason it didn't connect was probably because, now that I think about it, a print job was coming out, so it didn't want to connect. So I'm going to go into the network settings, and this is just to give you an example of how easy our machines are. If you've ever been into CWIS, is in order to connect our remote panel, right? So you use remote panel settings. It's a $1,000 option, and this is what you have to configure for that $1,000 option. You have to first you need a server, right? So you have to load the software that you buy from them on a server. So not only is it a $1,000 option, but you actually have to put the software to connect to the device somewhere. You got to put an IP address. You have to configure a certificate. How many of you have configured a certificate? All right, never mind. I'm not going to ask. You have to have a proxy setting to it, okay? Why you would need a proxy setting, I'm not really sure. We've set this up. I've actually set this up on a machine in Europe. I still have problems with it today, so I'm not going to show it to you. It works. It works intermittently. It's kind of like my PC. It works when it wants to work. It doesn't always work. But you can do a proxy server for it if you need to. But that's what they consider remote control panel client settings. And then you have server settings. So ours is just easy. You click on it. I know it's Java and you have problems with Java and all that kind of stuff, but it's much better than having to configure. And you have to do this with each device. So if you have 4 or 5 devices that you have to support, they have to configure all of these devices. Really kind of a pain in the neck. Another thing I will show you in here. No, let's skip the tablet. How much time we got? 30 minutes? Let's go to email and LDAP settings. So on. Click OK. So LDAP is on. Now I got to go to setting up LDAP. And you can add all of this. So if you wanted to edit. So again, certificates for LDAP, search bases, login name, passwords, initial settings for all of that. We do a lot of the same similar stuff, but we put it all under email settings because LDAP is part of email. And to get LDAP to work with email, you actually have to go through and do it in here also. So just not a really easy way to go about it. And then they do have the same storage and all of that kind of stuff. System settings, this turns into a few different things. Geez, if I had the machine. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud now. Sorry, I'm looking at something also that I did here. Graphic outline, limit live. All right, so is that enough on Konica? Any other questions? Oh, let me say one other thing that we can do also is that in here, we do have the same type of landscape slides in the resources for Konica Minolta. We have not done an update to the A4 stuff yet on that, Trevor? No? Not yet, right?
No, I can do that. They weren't a huge,
they're not a big, they don't have a lot of A4.
but I'll look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do the landscapes for a lot of them. It's just a matter of processing through. We tend to take the, what I'll call the top vendors, you know, and work down. So I think we've done HP, Lexmark, and Ricoh, right? Yeah. So any other questions on Konica Minolta? Now, well, let me ask, any other questions?
No, we're good.
You're good, okay. One other thing then I would want to say, Konica Minolta are good machines. They do have good image quality, good enough image quality, I'll say. I mean, it's not like I would go after them on stuff like that. If I was to go against Konica Minolta, the kind of stuff I would look at has more to do with the type of pricing and those kind of things that they have. And then the technology overall, the print drivers, the ease of use in the administrative pages, those kind of things. They are a tough competitor if you're up against them. And I'm just going to this within BLI so you can see it, is the options pages that you have to go through for it. Because they do have quite a few options and they tend to be a little expensive, but they are a quality device. And then here in a second I'll start up with Canon.
Jamie,
Yeah.
on the Konica Minolta, that was one that did not before have the turnaround function. Does it have it now?
That's a good question. No, not in the same way that we do. What they have, and some people might argue it's better than print around, is they have what they call a force print. So if the job faults at the device and it's looking for a type of paper, the device does stop, right? So it's not going to print around, but the user can force it to another paper tray. I heard a ah.
So force to another paper tray, as long as that other paper tray has that same.
Right, right. So let's use my letterhead example from earlier. You know, you send over a job asking for letterhead, and the machine says, no, don't have it. But you can look at the device and say, well, tray 3 has paper, so just give me tray 3. I don't care what it is. Now, that's not print around, but it's a way for people to kind of force the job. Now, the opposite of that is also bad. So if I walk up to the device and I said, I need plain paper, and they look at it and they go, well, tray 1's got paper in it, let me just do that. Well, tray 1 could be letterhead, you know, so they could force it onto letterhead and print out, you know, the NCAA pools on letterhead paper, you know, because it didn't have any paper in tray 4. So it's not the same thing as print around, but some people, Konica Minolta in some senses has said that it's the same thing because you can, but I call it force job. You can force it to another tray. So.
Jamie?
Yes, sir.
What if you're trying to print off an 8.5 by 11, but the machine doesn't have any 8.5 by 11? Will it go to the next job that needs 11 by 17?
No, and that's print around. Right. Right. So, and then let me say it this way. If you take a job that's 11 by 17, and you go, well, just put it on 8.5 by 11, what would you think would happen?
Just cut it off.
Right. So what you get is you get an 11 by 17 full image, right? The full 11 by 17, and when it prints, all you get is the 8.5 by 11 part of that image in the middle. The other part of the image doesn't print. One of the things...
Does it shrink it down automatically?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Oh, it does not. Nope, it does not shrink it at all. So
It just fixes all the costs then, there's no advantage.
right, so there's really no advantage to it. It's just pushing it to another paper type. We, Xerox, I think you can do this now on our machines, or it's a software thing that is coming in Connect Key 2.0 later this year, where we're going to have that same feature, but we automatically reduce the image down to fit the paper type.
That's on 1.5, Jamie.
Is it? Okay. I get it all confused. I got too many in my head to keep it straight. Right. So we do the same thing, and we do print around, I guess is the right answer, right? So other vendors do have print around though. Ricoh has print around. It is not on by default. So the service tech has to go in and enable it. It requires service to do it. It is not something an administrator can do. Canon has print around. It is not on by default, but an administrator can enable it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sharp has it. Sharp was actually the first one to come out with print around. And then Xerox has it. A couple things here. So you see here, this is one of the things I wanted to show about the Ricoh or the Konica Minolta devices. They have a lot of options. Memory option upgrades, interface upgrades, scan accelerator board. This is where we've lost a couple deals on this. They have the ability to actually put in a scan accelerator board, which makes their processing of scan jobs much faster. So be aware of that. But searchable PDFs is an option. This is their OCR option. They also have the ability, let me see. I don't see it. But like the PDF, searchable text PDF requires an extra gig of memory because it's an I option. So it is text searchable PDF, $668. Look what they charge for a gig of memory, $106. So it's a $700 option to get text searchable PDF, which is standard on our devices. Anyways, so Canon. Let me move on to Canon because we're running close on time. So, videos on Canon? Videos on, I'll give you a sneak peek of one of the videos that's coming for Canon. Email. Those are my daughters. You don't know them that well. I wouldn't know. And they're 18 and 17 now, so they're older than that. Videos.
The moment in time.
So here's the videos, and like I said, these are done. I'm working on the translation right now for them. So I'll do. One of the things we talked about was paper settings. I think Canon was one of the paper setting videos that we shot. And what we try to do with these is I try to show you the ones that we kind of have advantages around. Some of the other vendors, like with the scan to and print from on a Konica Minolta, the reason I don't show that video is because really Konica Minolta does a pretty good job with it. Theirs pops up and does all the right stuff. And I should have been careful about opening a video because these are, you can see these are huge, 350 meg for a video, 328 I should say. But while it's thinking, meanwhile, we go into the print driver. So I'm going to do the PCL. I tend to show PCL folks because PostScript's an option on a lot of these vendors. So, you know, if you're going to be up against them, actually, I'll make this point. Canon salespeople will talk about that their devices are faster than anybody else's in the industry. The reason that is because they use a proprietary print description language, a PDL. You all know what a PDL is, right? PostScript, PCL, those are PDLs. Canon, have something called UFR2, which stands for ultra-fast rendering. Okay. What that really means is that it spools the print job much faster than competitors, us, anybody else, and prints the job out, mostly because the spooling process is faster than ours. So if you're up against Canon and they say your customer says to you, oops, video started. Your customer says to you that the Canon device is much faster, the answer is that that's because they use ultra-fast rendering too, versus our PostScript or PCL. It is not an apples-to-apples description, basically, is what it comes down to. Tell them that if they want to do a test and have an equal comparison, then they should do a test with their PostScript or our PCL versus Canon's PostScript or PCL. And the customer might say, well, I really don't care if it's PostScript or PCL. I've heard that. The key is that you really want PostScript or PCL because those are industry standards. Microsoft makes their documents ready to print based on those industry standards. Fonts, all in the industry standards. If you're using UFR2 and there's a problem with your print job, I mean, the font could be missing. I mean, it might not print properly because ultra-fast rendering doesn't handle PowerPoint and things like that, just like PostScript and PCL do. You always want industry standards would be my point against the customer there. So I'm going to find the Canon piece here. Excuse me while I browse. So, Canon print driver settings. So again, on our machine, you walk up, you put paper in it, a little message pops up, says, what'd you put in it? Oops, hold on. I'm going to pause this because I don't want it to be so jumpy. That's the side of my head. You can see we shoot all these videos in the same day. So there's no prompt, there's nothing for them to say, here, this is what we did. So now John printed a job and it all came out on letterhead paper. He did a PowerPoint because he couldn't tell. So this is the button settings you have to go through. And my point with this stuff is you have to know where that button setting is. So you're all trainers, right? How many people actually ask, how do you program on our machines? Nobody, because it's easy enough. On the Canon Ricoh machines, unless you ask, how do I program paper, more than likely nobody's ever going to tell you in a training how to go through and program paper types. Now, one of the things they can do that's a unique feature is register names. So you can actually build what I call a paper library on the device. But that's an administrative task, so if you have special papers, you know, that you want to load, you can do all of that kind of stuff in the device, and it would show up in the driver. So that ends up being a key. Now, let me pause here. So this will show you what's in each tray, and I think in the video I actually show you how you do a refresh. So ours does it through bidirectional, right? If I change paper settings on a Canon machine, this is how you have to update it. You have to go through device status. So you go start, printers and drivers, go to the print driver, right click, go to printer properties, go to device status, and hit refresh or get device status. That's how you have to refresh the paper types on each machine. So I'm going to pause it here for a second. Does that make sense? Do you see what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask it this way. Can you use paper settings on the machine if you have a print server? So you know what a print server is, right? You're sharing your printer off of your
Can I ask you a follow-up question? Can Canon install their print drivers on the server?
Yeah. Well, they can, sure. But it would mean that the administrator, the server administrator would have to go in to refresh status. Because if you load it, you can't change printer properties. It'll get blocked. That's one of the things that's blocked from a server side. So you can't go in and change settings or anything like that on it. So if you have a server and Canon loads the print drivers there, they can't actually communicate, paper settings. It'll always show as plain paper until somebody refreshes it, which just won't happen. So they won't be able to set letterhead. They won't be able to set, they'll have a lot of jamming because of if you do heavy stocks, any of that kind of stuff, unless you do this. Make sense? It's a little thing, but. So in here, this is where you would go. You'd go into paper source. This is where you would scroll over it. It gives you the information right here. But if somebody went and changed something, you would never see it. Couple things in here that's that we do. No application defaults, so you got to set up a PowerPoint default. No land facts. Okay. Again, we're the only ones who do land facts. Secure. Anybody see secure print? Nope, it's not in there. You actually have to go to output method of print. They have profiles and printing, so you can do store, you can do edit and preview. This is kind of a neat one, but I haven't seen a lot of people using it. You can actually preview the print job at your desk. Secure print's in here. And then you can do a store or promote print. So this goes to the idea of print around. You can actually do a promote print. What do you think that means?
Move it up in the print queue?
Yeah, so it'll move it up in the print queue. Why wouldn't you make that your default?
Well, is it based on user priorities set by the system admin, though?
No, it just pushes it up to the top of the print jobs. If there's 6 print jobs in queue, it puts yours at the top of those 6 print jobs. So for the jobs that are currently running, if you have 6 or 7 in the queue, it puts yours at the top of the list. But again, like I said, that'd be my default. I mean, I'd change that to my default so I never have to wait. But just a weird.
Well, it depends how many users you got, though, right?
Yeah, if you have a lot of users, but. And then in here, this is one of those, so color by words, where we do color by words. Hold on, let me switch this.
Color by number.
So they do this, increase green, increase yellow. Theirs is probably closest to what ours is, I would tell you. This is not a bad setup, increase red, increase. Now, the advantage to ours is that we say, turn green to blue or yellow to green, all of that kind of stuff. They just increase or completely take over. They do matching, and we do all of this kind of stuff also. ICC profiles, all of that. So, and that's another thing to remember. Not only do we do color by words, right? Let me cancel this. Not only do we do color by words in our print drivers, but we also do all of the other fancy stuff. The color matching. You can tell that my machine is dragging. I'm going to say to my boss, a productivity enhancer would be getting Jamie a new laptop. So I'll just share. So I'll show you what I consider maybe the 7 things I would show in a print driver that we do better than anybody. one of the things I'm a big believer in is starting with our strengths versus worrying about the competitors' weaknesses. And I say that because I think, as long as you know that we have strengths like bidirectional communication, that's something you should have confidence like delivering and saying, hey, we're really good at this, better than them, and the value of this is we save you time. Time is productivity. Too many times in this business do we count productivity as how fast the machine runs. Productivity in the graphics communications business is how long does it take you to set up the job? How long does it take you to figure out you want to do stapling and getting it all ready to print, and then sending it to the machine, and then going and getting the job and delivering it to the end user. It is not just how fast the machine runs. We do a much better job on the inbound, the print driver, and the outbound of communicating that the job is done and being able to go pick it up and all that. Some competitors' machines are a little faster than ours, big deal. We do better jobs on the two other sides. So if I go under image options, color by words, as you can see, is something that, we do better than other people. I showed you that, but look at all the other stuff we do. You want to do spot color, if you understand spot color, we do spot colors. If you want to do swap press colors, we do swap press colors. I mean, we do all of that kind of stuff. Simulate LCD displays. Now, I can't personally tell you what all this stuff does, but, if there's somebody out there, like, even if they got an A3, what is that A3 printer? It's like a 7600 or something like that. You could actually do commercial or ISO coded or spot colors off of that. Color by words is a great, easy tool for kind of, the average user, but we still have all of the high-end user stuff that people look for. You can do custom color adjustments. So here's your CMYKs. More adjustments. I mean, we don't lack for the adjustments. Spot colors, more adjustments. Automatic, swap, all of that. We have the ability to do more color adjustments than just about anybody in the industry. Application defaults, I've probably beat that to death, so you should know that at this point. Bidirectional communication, look at that. It tells me there's an error on the machine. If I click on it, well, let me go back. You can actually click on this picture to open up this, right? Here it comes. So this will open, and this tells you, it's a small error. But it also tells you that the machine is out or almost out of cyan. So why would I print to the machine if I got an error, or I'm out of toner, or I'm out of paper? All of the communication to the paper stuff. Active jobs, what active jobs are running. Completed jobs, tells me what's finished. User permissions. This is a big one, right? Y'all know what user permissions is?
Yes.
Perfect. So the print driver actually communicates that to you. My wife is an art teacher. K through 5 she teaches at a school district. They actually block printing to the devices between the hours of 9 and 2. Why would you stop somebody from printing on the device between the hours of 9 and 2 in a school? Because they make copies all day. That way, they don't get interrupted by people sending print jobs to the machine. They can just walk up and make a copy. The print driver tells you all of that. The other thing the print driver would do, too, is if you had, let's say I was in Outlook, and it would say permissions not granted for color or duplex, or you can't print this document, All of that's communicated through the print driver. So it's a great way of demoing user permissions and print drivers at the same time, is just going through all of that. So here's 3 or 4 things that we do better than everybody. Defaults, I said to you. Job types, we do fax through here. So now, I think in 1.5, somebody will correct me on this, but 1.5, you can now actually get your fax confirmation pages returned to you via email. Am I correct? I think I'm correct.
Yes.
So, I pay attention. So all of that can be done. Those are nice features, and you don't have to load a separate print driver. You don't have to load a separate piece of software like Konica Minolta has to do for all this. Our software is better than everybody else, you know, and we should spend time talking about it. And I think what I'm really getting to is be proud about it, know it, you know, own it. And then under advanced, this is one of my favorite things that only we do. Right? So most people want to just get rid of the banner page, right? Disable the banner page. We can actually print the ID on the banner page. What does that mean? Well, from a security aspect, let's say you're at a healthcare facility and they want to know who prints everything. We can actually, on every piece of paper, put the ID of the user on the first page or on all the pages, like a fax header. So every piece of paper that comes out will say, who printed that? So if it's somebody's, you know, healthcare records for, you know, HIPAA, at least here in the States it's HIPAA, or if it's a bank and they want to know, you know, who printed all of this stuff, we can do all of that. It's great security and it's cost control, because the only other way for people to do it is actually to print the banner page. We don't have to print a banner page. We can actually put it in the margins. So there's things like that that I think, you know, we just might not do a good job of talking about that I like to show people. We're up against it. Geez, time flies, huh? Time flies when you're having fun. Any questions? Anything you want me to clarify? Any tools?